4th of Shvat. This marks naturally Hilula of the famous Rabbi Yisrael Abuhatzeira, also popularly known as the Baba Sali, who was born in English in 1889 and passed away in 1984. He was approximately 94 years of age at the time of passing. He was a famous Moroccan rabbi, a great Kabbalist, and was known through various different miracles he could do through his tefillot in of itself. Now, actually, it's the third video we're relating over about the famous rabbi. We related over a story with regards to the great Chacham about 2.5 years ago, and another biography, small biography video, 2 years ago on his Hilula. Then he would be buried eventually in the Tivot when he passed away. And many people visit his kever, especially at the time period of his Hilula. He was born precisely on September the 26th in English 1889, and I believe he passed away January the 8th in 1984. He would have been, so as we stated before, he would become a great rabbi in of itself. I believe his father's name was Rabbi Masoud Abuhatzeira, another rabbi we have spoken about on various occasions before. We actually did a video within regards to him. Now, he was born in 1889, and he was from the Abuhatzeira family in of itself was a very great, distinguished family of very great Sephardic Torah scholars from many hundreds of years beforehand. He was a grandson of the famous Rabbi Yaakov Abuhatzeira. He was also known as Abi Yaakov, very, very great, very famous rabbi, where probably one of the greatest rabbis of all time. And he was the patriarch of his family was Rabbi Shmuel Abuhatzeira. I believe Rav Shmuel happened to have been born in the land of Israel, and he lived in Damascus for a while, and he studied famously Torah together with the famous Rabbi Kabbalist Rabbi Chaim Vital. It's actually related over in the book of the Chidah. Rabbi Chaim Yosef David in his sefer called the Shem Hagdolim, he actually described Chacham Shmuel as an Ish Elokim Kadosh, very holy man of God. Like wise people speak of his might and wonders in saving the Jewish community from many difficulties. It's actually interesting. Rav Shmuel's descendants eventually would move to the city of Tafilalat in Morocco, where Rav Shmuel's descendant, Rav Masoud, became the rabbi of the city. We know that Rav Masoud's son was Yaakov, known as Abi Yaakov, who we mentioned about just beforehand, and he would actually succeed Rabbi Yaakov Abuhatzeira. His father has been the rabbi of Tafilat. It's a very, very prominent position. Rav Yaakov's eldest son was Rav Masoud, once again, and he became the head of the Jewish court there, also known as Ab Bet Din in Hebrew, in this same specific city. And it was over here where Rabbi Yisrael Abuhatzeira would be born. Also, as we stated before, he's known as the famous Baba Sali in of its own right. Okay, so it's actually interesting. They lived, reported over, on a large estate, which included a yeshiva over there, where many great Torah scholars studied there day and night. The Bet Din over there, let's say the rabbinical court, was of his father's, Rav Masoud, and it was located, I believe, in the premises in of itself. He had an older brother, Rav David, who studied by himself inside Attic, very famously, very great Torah scholar in itself. And it would be interesting. I think Rav Masoud didn't travel much, but when he traveled, he would actually cover his eyes to stop him from seeing inappropriate things. It was reported over. We know that when Rabbi Yisrael was very young, he was a very, very great, diligent Torah scholar. He was studying by day and at night. I believe when he was only 12 years of age, he began to fast during the 6 weeks known as Shovavim, Shmot, Va'er, Bo, V'Shelach Yitrok, Mishpatim. Those are the 6 weeks where it's a more, let's say, prestigious, opportune time to daven to Hashem with regards to doing teshuvah with, let's just say, chas v'chalila, various averot that might have been caused. That's a whole topic onto itself, in of itself. So he would fast over there, and that obviously would take a toll on his body. It's actually interesting. I believe his brother Rav David noticed how weak and pale he was, and he told him maybe to, stop. But Rabbi Yisrael Abuhatzeira would keep fasting. How important he saw it was that he would actually fast over here. The Taniyot, very, very important in itself. I believe after his bar mitzvah, at the age actually of 13 years old, he entered his family's yeshiva. The yeshiva where there were students. They rose at midnight to pray Tikkun Chatzot, and they studied Kabbalistic works until dawn. It's an opportune time in itself. Then they would go to the mikveh, to Tovel, and they would pray the Shacharit service and eat breakfast afterwards. This was obviously followed by an in-depth Gemara class study afternoon prayers, and a shiur in Shulchan Aruch, in the code of Jewish law that they would study afterwards in of itself. Now it's actually interesting. I believe in the year 1951, Rabbi Abuhatzeira immigrated to the land of Israel and would settle in Lod. And over there, he tried to conceal himself from the public. However, he was discovered, let's just say, and offered the position of chief rabbi, to be chief rabbi of Lod. He declined this position. He then would move to the Baka neighborhood in Jerusalem. I think that's based near Tel Yot. And over there, he would conceal himself, study the whole time. But eventually, many of the people living in that area in of itself would actually discover the greatness, what a great Chacham he did. And I believe after the passing of Rabbi Ben Tzur Meah Chai Uziel, this was, I believe, in the year 1953, he was a Sephardi chief rabbi of Israel. He was offered the position, which once again would turn down this position. They were offered many, let's say, prestigious positions, very much recognized by the Israel country in of itself. But he would, let's just say, turn these down. But be it as it may, he would still become probably arguably the greatest rabbi of his generation. Several years after he arrived in Israel, the news reached Chacham Abuhatzeira that Jewish life in Morocco had been spiritually, let's say, declining at a great rate. So he would return to Morocco and lead and inspire the community there. And come what the year, I think 1964, he returned to Israel again, and this time he would actually settle in Netivot, a city, I think, in the Negev. And he began to receive visitors from all over. Many people come to him for brachot and for advice in of itself. Now, he passed away in the year 1984. I believe that was 4th of Shvat. And his funeral was attended by an estimated approximation of 100,000 people. And we know that his gravesite in Tivot has become like a place where people come to daven inside his kever, and daven, especially at the time period of the Hilula. Many celebrations actually took place last night, now that it's 4th of Shvat in of itself. But what a great leader he was of the Moroccan community. We know that his leadership spanned, let's say, a tumultuous dissolution of most of Jewish life in the Muslim lands and its subsequent replanting in Israel and the West. And his Torah study was second to none. We stated before that the lineage was from Rabbi Shmuel Elbaz, was a Talmid of the famous Chaim Vital. He was obviously, Rabbi Chaim Vital was the Talmid of the Arizal, Rabbi Luria Ashkenazi. And what great people they were. It's actually interesting. The Rabbi Yaakov Abuhatzeira, who was his grandfather, was also known as Abi Yaakov, what we said before. And the Petuchei Chotam was a great Torah work of his, which very much is studied in nowadays. You know, what does the name Baba Sali mean? Many people will ask. It means a praying father. Baba is Arabic for father, or grandfather, you could say. And Sali, the word Sali, is said to be either a contraction of the name Yisrael, in Arabic for praying. Interesting enough. And indeed, obviously, during his long life, thousands of Jews, and not just Jewish people, non-Jewish people, came to the Baba Sali, who would give them, he would give them gracious blessing and pray for them, and performed various different miracles in of itself. Very interesting enough. Rabbi Masoud Abuhatzeira, who we recorded the video with in regards, was not just a great Torah scholar, he was a great rabbi also. It was in the area of Risani in Tafilalat. Where is this place? One could be asking. Tafilalat was an oasis, let's just say, on the edge of the vast Saharan desert, separated from the large Moroccan cities by the Atlas Mountains. It was based in, let's say, the isolated locale, and over there, that was where Rabbi Yisrael Abuhatzeira devoted nights and days to great Torah, diligent study in of itself. It's also reported that he abstained not just from from eating, from even speaking, from one Shabbat to the next. It was actually reported over. I believe when he was 18 years of age, his extra tidbits in regards to the great rabbi, he was appointed to lead the yeshiva in Risani, and very, very interesting enough. It's got to be reported over. There was a lot of anti-Semitic troubles that actually was taking place in Morocco, and his oldest brother, Rabbi David Abuhatzeira, which we will speak about in a few minutes, in the year 1919, was executed. He very famously said, we'll just see how terrible anti-Semitism was all throughout the Jewish history in of itself. And I think at that point in time, when Rabbi David was murdered, the family actually fled to the village of Budenib, actually, and over there, I think the Baba Sali will be appointed as a rabbi in this region. Now, it's reported over the Baba Sali was married 4 times. This is according to the Chabad.org website. This is, I think, while he was in Lalat, he was around the age of Bar Mitzvah. He married his cousin. It's reported over Ruchama. She passed away in childbirth just 2 years later. Then, at the age of 16, he married Foresha. I hope I pronounced her name correctly. They would have 3 children who survived into adulthood. His 3rd wife was Rabbanit Miriam. They had 4 children together, and his final wife, Rabbanit Simi, I think whose late daughter Rabbanit Esther was married apparently to a Rabbi Yashar Ederi. The Chabad.org website actually points out, who actually will become the director of Chabad in Netivot. Because I'm using some of these tidbits here on the Chabad website. Now, it's reported over in the year 1922. The Baba Sali would travel to Eretz Israel and studied in the famous Bet El Yeshiva, a great yeshiva of the Kabbalists in of itself. This is a great yeshiva which we actually recorded a video with in regards about, which produced some of the greatest rabbis, especially from northern African countries in Jewish history. I believe he would be returning to this area of Budanim, and he would serve once again there as a rabbi on that locale before again he would return to the Holy Land. This was reported over. As we stated before, in 1951 he and his family emigrated to Eretz Israel, and I'm not sure, it could be that he would, before he went back to Morocco, as we stated before, he would actually have a window of time in France, if I'm not mistaken. So that's also very interesting. I believe in 1952, when he wished to immigrate to Israel, he wished actually at one stage in 1952 to actually go to the United States of America, where I think he wanted to actually study Torah in depth. Maybe it would have been less destruction of him because it was very famous in the other place itself. And but at the end he would actually end up going, I believe, back obviously to Morocco at one stage and back to Israel. He was involved in many different charity organizations and helped the poor a lot and various different charity. It's actually interesting. I think, for example, there was various different Shabbat candle campaigns, tefillin campaigns in of itself, and the Baba Sali was very, very supportive within regards to this, giving brachot to the people that, the children that would, let's say, embrace this campaign in of itself, and the families that embrace the campaigns, and many kupot, tzedakot were actually established within regards to the Baba Sali, and many different Beit Knessets are named after the great rabbi. Nowadays, many different mostot, different schools in the modern day. There were many books printed within regards to the great rabbi also, so we've got to point this out also. What's also interesting, when he returned in 1964 to Israel, we stated before that he moved to Netivot over there, and I believe he would spend the rest of his life in Netivot, and which is interesting enough. And this area in Netivot now is forever associated with the great legacy of the Baba Sali. Now, it's actually interesting. There's a famous, many people will know about the Baba Sali, will associate him with a drink, the popular liquor drink, the arak, alcoholic drink, a strong liquor, let's just say in of itself. When he gave a person a glass of arak, it's reported over, the expectation was that they would drink from it along with a wish for the arrival of Bezrat Hashem. Obviously, we hope the Moshiach is going to come now, the rebuilding of Bet Amigash. But there's many stories of him covering a bottle of arak with a kerchief and then pouring from it much more than the bottle could have ever held. This is a famous story. He'd often tell people that his blessings were contingent on them increasing their mitzvah observance, which they gladly do. It's actually interesting, the famous story of as I think a heroic soldier that injured his leg very badly in the Yom Kippur War, and the Baba Sali gave him a bracha, which actually related over, I think, this story, and he would start miraculously being able to walk again, because he would also take on mitzvah observance. Now, it's actually interesting. He lived a simple life, very, very highly reported over, and various different elected officials will come to visit him. Social leaders will actually come to his door, but he would always keep his simplicity in every single thing, wearing the same, let's say, Moroccan style robe wherever he went, and hood, and he would, let's just say, many people come with him with lavish gifts to give him checks, but it meant nothing to him. This was just money. It was like monopoly money inside this world, as long as it's going to good causes, and the people inside the community were strengthened very much, and the Torah was very important, and the poor was satisfied, and so much was being done. These frivolities, it was simple. It was just he was content, let's say, with his simple mat and small room in of itself, where he could actually serve Hashem to the zenith level. That's reported over. We said about there was tragedy in his family. Rabbi Yisrael Abuhatzeira anti-Semitically lost his life, and we stated about his wife also. He lost at a young age. And there was his first wife, as we stated before, passed away. It's reported over during his lifetime, several of his children had passed away, including his eldest son, the Baba Meir, who was actually seen as the next in line to become, let's just say, follow his father within regards to have the great rabbinic position in of itself. Now, he didn't publish many works in of itself. We could see that he was just, his entire life was just Torah and devotion. But there were few printed books, and some of, I think, his writings ended up getting lost. I think there was a work called Abad Yisrael, which was published after his passing. I think several original Puritan poetic prayers, let's just say, including the Yodu Lecha Rayona, let's say in Hebrew we call that "My thoughts shall thank you," in which he sings of joy, let's just say in itself, and the welcoming, let's say, he'll have upon Moshiach. And this song very much is a popular thing that we will sing even nowadays. Now, 4th of Shvat, naturally that is today at the time of recording, is a time of celebration. It's a time of Silula where there's so many different mitzvahs, Sudat mitzvahs taking place all over Israel, especially in Netivot. Many people will visit his kever. He was one of the great rabbis of all time. I would recommend everyone to learn more about Abuhatzeira family in general, the greatness of Rabbi Yisrael Abuhatzeira, arguably one of the great rabbis, especially living in Israel, since the formation of Medinat Israel in the year 1948. Don't forget the candles in the great rabbi's memory, the Baba Sali, and may all his sukhiyot be protecting Am Yisrael. Friends, we're a community here. We're learning a lot about the great Oriental rabbis of yesteryear, the Spanish rabbis of yesteryear. Please, if you feel anyone will be interested in watching and listening to these videos, share the videos to other people, and please subscribe to the channel because we're recording a lot of biography videos on many of the great rabbis. So wishing you blessings from Israel. Take care and be well.